Yo, 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 welcome to YingYangSports. I am Justice Ottawa, and we are here to talk some NHL hockey. And I am very excited to dive into more of this Tarasenko signing, where he fits in on this roster in terms of lines, in terms of which players he's going to fit playing best next to. We're gonna dive into all that today. I have some lines I'm hoping to see on opening night, and then I have some lines that I'm hoping to see for in the beginning of the season, more later into the season. Let's say maybe 20, 30 games in. I'd love to see some of our young kids start to actually get their shot on the roster, and I have some interesting line breakdowns and who I want to see on each line in terms of players who I think will fit well together in terms of the grand scheme of what the Red Wings. Sorry, my chair's all fucked up. We'll do this for this 2023 or 2024 2025 season. All right, but the first thing I do want to start off with is we still need a right defenseman, it looks like. I am willing to go with the prospects. I do like Johansson, and I do like, I have it right here. Sorry, I'm blanking. And Wallander. I got a question I want to ask you on BD. Without considering money, just based on talent, would you rather have Trouba or Ekblad? Ekblad's ceiling's higher, I'd say, and I'd say he fits better into the team. Trouba, as good of a physical presence he is, he's reckless, and that's why New York's kind of pretty sour on him to an extent. So that's why I'd say Ekblad over Trouba. Do I think either of them are going to happen to this point? No, I really don't. I think they're both pretty much getting more dead into the water, and I do believe now that they're leaning more towards the youth movement and being on that wavelength with those type of guys as they think they've shown. So that's what I think. And then another thing I think that's really interesting is because I was talking about it yesterday about bringing back Daniel Sprong. I don't think we're going to do that anymore. Sprong seems like a guy that you can replace. He had 47 points, I think, last season. He was a -2. I think that can be easily replaced with help of Bergen. I think he's going to be a full-time start on the roster. I think that's kind of make space for Bergen to have an actual role on this roster that's not the same as someone else. I think that's huge for these young guys. Is there's not already someone who is on the roster who plays the same role as them. Justafan, what is up? I am alive, and I am live. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And I don't know if any of you tuned in. I know I saw Justafan in there. We were chatting a little bit, but the 3v3 development camp this morning, which was streamed on the Red Wings YouTube, was uber entertaining. It was so. Trouba had a 5-minute penalty every game. LNW, yes, he did. But it was so entertaining to watch, and someone who really jumped out of the screen was Nate Danielson. And I know everyone's super hype about Nate Danielson. I know I am. I think that he's going to be such a good center for us. He's that perfect second center we've been looking for with true talent, which gives you flexibility to move Comfort down to the third line to play center on that third line and really have a deep room of forwards. Or you can move him to the wing on the third line and play Casper there, which is kind of where I'm going to be trying to convince you guys of later in the show, as I have these projected lines, which I want to get to, but I don't want to be too excited and jump the boat on that, because I am uber excited about where this team is going. And I think the people who don't have a good outlook on this roster or don't trust the Yzer plan per se don't understand what is actually festering in the minors right now and how much elite level talent we have. Even MBN stepped on the ice and looked like he was one of the best players out there. He had he had a couple goals. He had a really nice forehand backhand top shelf goal on a breakaway. And he excited me on the ice too. He looks like he should be ready next year, not this year, but the year after, playing a year. I don't think they're going to Eurostash him. It seems like he's going to come over and he's going to play minutes in the AHL next year, which is huge for him. And guys like Johansson, he's going to take the jump. I think he went from -7 in 2022 to +7 in 2023. That's a big jump. 16 plus minus rating. means he's just that much better defensively, that much better contributing to offense, and that's a stat that is just a truly underrated stat that people who just read off stats just don't really understand how valuable plus minus is, because it's all even strength, and so you're either a plus player or a minus player at the end of the day, and you want players with plus minuses, and that's such a big deal for me when I'm looking at evaluating players, especially defensemen, because yeah, you can't necessarily control how many goals are scored, but if you're playing good defense, there's not really a way that you're going to have a lower plus minus than someone who is playing bad defense. And that's why you saw Steven Stamkos have such a big plus minus differential, because he had he had a minus like 21, but he had half his points in the power play, and then he's not necessarily a good defender. Even Kane had a better plus minus than that, and that's why I like the Kane deal so much more than I like the Stamkos deal and the Tarasenko deal. Like, that's what people don't like are missing in the optics of it. Chase Hamley, what up though? Glad you're here. Only problem with our top six as of right now is that Confer and Larkin are going to have to step it up on defense. The only winger that's a plus defender is Raymond. 100%, and I will get to that in 1 second. What was I talking about? I guess we'll talk about that. I forgot my point, but plus minus. But that's why it's like guys like Alec Martinez and currently the one guy I want them to go after, if they do go after someone, is Tyson Barrie, who is a positive defender. The plus minus is just such a huge stat in the NHL, and I think the reason why our top six works, it's tough because we do have some negative defenders out there, but we have Confer and Larkin who are both plus defenders, and they're not liabilities, and that's where you want your defense to be coming from if it's coming from anywhere. Is there the center position? I think everyone's saying that they want Kane and Tarasenko together. I disagree. I think the more intriguing line is Tarasenko, Larkin, and Raymond on your first line, with Cat, Confer, and Kane on your second line. I think that really is more. That really is more. I feel like that's a lot of more balance, and you have some size, you have some scoring, you have because Tarasenko and Kane together, like, that's double defensive liability. And as much as people want to dig on Cat, like, Cat is still a relative decent defender. I'd say better than Kane and better than Tarasenko. That's a tough comparison to make and a tough argument to make as well. But I think that Tarasenko really complements Raymond really well. And I think with Larkin in the middle there, that's really solid. Confer with Cat and Kane, Confer's the best center defenseman we have, or defensive center we have. So I think that really complements each other well. Just a fan, I want more from you, Spenny, DMAC, and less of WSM, who know nothing about hockey except puck and net is a goal. Yeah, I'm working my way up. I think they're really starting to respect me as in the hockey role there. So I'm hoping I get some more opportunities. Come this Red Wing season. I know I'm going to have some opportunities during the Lions season, but I'm definitely going to hop on any opportunities for the Red Wing season as well. My third line, going into the start of the season, I think that this should be a line that's a hard-hitting line, but that's still catching their feet in the NHL. I think you can put Rasmussen, Kasper, and Bergen on this line. I think that might be pretty risky coming from day one, but I'm not worried about Kasper taking the jump. He plays a very NHL style of hockey where even if he's not putting up points, I like him in his role. Bergen's going to replace Sprong, so I like that a lot. And then your fourth line on opening night, I think, is going to be Mott, Kopp, and Fisher. And for all the hate that Kopp gets, and I know he's a little overpaid, but I mean, he did have his best point season last season on the Red Wings, and I know it's not all stats, and He was as close to a plus player as he could have been. He was -2. So in terms of a bottom-tier line player, I don't think that Kopp is as big of an issue other than the contract term, in my opinion. But that's for other people to know. Ryan and Talbot and Lyon got to show up at 100%. I think that is your tandem right there. I think you insert Lyon as you go. And then our decor, I think it's Sherratt and Seider. I think it's Edmondson and Petrie. And I think it's Gustafsson and Mata to start the season. I'd love to see Johansson be in that top six to start the season. That's what I would expect and what I really want. Do I think it's viable? I think that bringing up the kids is going to be a very gentle growth period. and especially with a new goalie, I don't think that they're going to rely on the youth in the beginning of the season other than on the forward end. That's why I had Bergen and Casper slotted up here. I think that that's the youth movement that you're going to see at the start of the season. I think that it's only going to get more intense as the season goes on. And then, as Ryan says, Talbot and Lyon got to show up. Those are your two goalies. Husso, he's said to be ready by training camp, but I don't know. I think he honestly might start the season on the LTIR, which wouldn't be a bad thing. It would open up some salary as well. And that's the big thing about the LTIR is you can use it to an advantage until they fix the rule. Use it to your advantage. Sign players, go into playoffs more loaded than you can. Otherwise, if he stays on LTIR all year, you could trade for someone with $4.5 million worth of cap. And that's a big weapon towards the end of the season when you're getting down to the dog days and you're deciding, all right, do we have enough here to make a run? Do we not? Are we going to trade off assets like Kane to bring in more assets for the next year? Because this team is on the precipice of competing. I'm going to say 30 games into the season, I'd really love to start to really have like a big youth presence, and you're going to see that with these lines I'm about to tell you. And I'm really high on Danielson, and you'll hear that. So the first line I'm going to have to stay the same with Tarasenko, Larkin, and Raymond. DeBrincat and Kane on the left and right wing. But then let's bring up Danielson, the center of those two. Come on. Tell me that's not intriguing. Danielson, he is 6'2". He does bring the size. Today he was throwing the weight around, which I was surprised about. Not a lot of people throw the weight around at a development camp, but he's really impressed me. Dan Cleary said that he's got a good shot to make the roster, so I'd love to see Danielson move up the ranks. That's really... And you're not going to have him playing like on a bottom six forward spot. Like that's a top six forward of your future. You're going to have him in your top six, playing top 6 minutes. He has the talent. The thing that's kind of the restrictive factor of those guys is are they talented enough to overcome if they're a little smaller. And that's where I think Danielson will be able to overcome. He's not smaller. I mean, weight might be a little bit of an issue, but he's 6'2". He's got great skating, and he really has great skill. He's showing it off today. He pulled off the Kane move in the shootout, too, which is absolutely gorgeous of a move. The third line, I think this is a really good third line. Rasmussen, Casper, and then Comfer on the right wing. I think that's a really good defensive line, a good third line, great grind line that could still produce some points. And then your fourth line can honestly be such a jumble. And if someone's missing, I'd throw Mazur. Mazur would be who replaces them on any off day. Because I don't think Mazur really fits a fourth line role. He's a really smart hockey player. I really like him. I also played against him. He's a very, very good player. I just don't think that's the role for the Red Wings. I think that the fourth line looks like alternating between Mott and Fisher with Kopp and Bergen. Still a little bit of scoring threat there with Bergen and Kopp there. And I think those are four lines that you're not going to want to play against in the playoffs. We have some scoring lines. We have two really good ready grind lines. And we don't seem to have a talent deficiency that we've had in the past couple years. And that's what I really want to see with this offseason. I think that's where Tarasenko fits in on that first line. I think that you start to see Casper and Danielson start to fit in on the second and third line, and then you see Bergen on the fourth, and that's where the youth movement starts to really push in. And the difference between this and the Tigers' youth movement, and I know I compare it a lot, but I think it's just so relevant, is because we actually insulated with top-tier vets. They didn't bring in a Tarasenko. You can't tell me Mark Canna's as good as Tarasenko. And I'm just really excited. And then when it comes to the midseason D-lines, I mean, it could be anything. The only, I'd say, locks in here would be Sherratt, Seider, and Edmondson to be three of your top four defensemen. I think then at that point you're looking at if Johansson's ready to make that jump into the top pairs. Gustafsson is he playing well? Is he could fit good with Edmondson as more of a tactician defensively instead of Gustafsson, or am I trying to move in on Johansson and Wallinder on that last pair and just completely moving out Petrie and Mata and go completely on the youth movement? Do I know? No. Do I think it's going to be some sort of rotation? Yes. I think there's going to be a lot of moving pieces on this D-core going through this offseason, and I know I'm getting granular and I know I'm getting super in-depth, but I hope that it's appreciated because I think that this roster has so many integral pieces in this young core, and they have so many vets that are on their way out and that are going to be ushered on the way out. And I don't necessarily know if going into the playoffs with ushered out veterans or giving your rookies a shot. I think it's the swift mix of both. I'd expect to have probably 6 or 7 guys maybe touch the roster from Grand Rapids this year who didn't necessarily. I'll count Edmondson, but other than that, who haven't had really necessarily a ton of starts on the Red Wings club. I apologize for the cough. And then when Husso comes back, is he going to be a shell of himself? Is he going to be that guy who is ready to move in and actually compete in this goalie tandem into that goalie tandem and force his way in to force that goalie conversation into the 3? I don't know. I really don't know. Husso's been such a wild card since he's even got here. Do we know what we're going to get from him? No, but he has a ceiling still. He does. That's why we paid him the $4.5 million. L&W, I think Steve has done this offseason. He said at the end of the press yesterday, see you at the deadline. I do see it. I 100% see it. I think he's going for the youth movement now. I would like to maybe see Tyson Brody, but it's a 1-year deal. That's not going to move the needle. And that's not really going to do anything in the long term. Playing these prospects will. And LW, I know you're a big Lion fan. Praying that we get hit, we keep him over. Husso, I mean, I definitely, if we're going to trade someone, it's going to be Husso to bring our cap space up. But we could be done. I mean, the only move left is to create cap space to sign another person, but there's not really anyone to sign. Trade deadline would definitely be more reasonable. And there's definitely going to be some names that are possibly on the move, especially if they're rentals and their teams haven't re-signed them midway through the year. I mean, one I to throw around is Mikko Rantanen. That would be a great addition to this. That would make this offense unbelievable. We'd have 3 lines of absolutely epic hockey. I don't know how you could fit that salary cap in here. You would have to cap dump at some point during the trade deadline. But those are all things that we're going to get to as the season goes on. But I think the takeaway factor here is we have done great things this offseason. It is exciting. We're ready to rock. We're ready to go. We're fully equipped to make the playoffs next year. And I think that there should be no fear. It's like the Lions. Like, this team's ready to compete. I think it's going to be an exciting season. Another thing that is going to be interesting is how are these power plays going to work? Are you going to be running the one power play like how the Oilers do, where they just stay out for 2 minutes, which I don't recommend, by the way. I actually hate that they do that. It actually bothers the absolute shit out of me. Just have 2 power plays, and at least rotate like everyone else other than McDavid and Draisaitl. Like, someone can go sit in front of the net and do Hyman's job and score a couple goals. Like, it's not like it's the end of the world, but I think that there's now a plethora of players who can play on the power play, and I think you probably do end up going with 2 lines. Maybe you go. I'd love to see Seider. That's the step up I'd love to see from Seider. He's a great defensive defenseman already. I'd love to see his point totals jump up a little bit, and that would be from the power play. I hope he quarterbacks the main power play. That would be ideal, with Kane as one of your 1T shooters, DeBrincat as one of your other 1T shooters. Maybe you throw... See, now you're running out of guys. You're running out of guys because your power play 1 definitely has Kane on it. Does Larkin get bumped off the power play? Because Raymond probably doesn't. That's so tough. Wow. I mean, Cat, Kane are probably on the first power play with probably Seider, Larkin. I don't even know. It really opens up. You got a lot of possibilities on the power play. I think you definitely go 2 lines. I think that's the best way to do it. It keeps your guys fresh. It keeps the pressure high. You can tell at the end of power plays the Oilers are just looking for anything that they can get. Yeah, Allen W., you got to keep Larkin on the power play. I agree. But maybe you go 5 forwards. I mean, we don't seem to have a quarterback on the power play. Maybe you throw Raymond up there to be that guy, and you run something like Raymond, Tarasenko, Larkin, Cat, and Kane with Tarasenko or Larkin in front of the net. I don't really necessarily trust anyone else to be up top other than maybe Larkin. Maybe Larkin plays up there, but that's hard. That's a completely different role, a completely different skill set of the power play that any of these guys have ever been asked to in the past. So you have to ask yourself, all right, we do have 5 premier offensive options to run on the power play. Is it the best thing to split them, work some D in there, maybe have Confer on the power play? When Danielson comes up here, he'll be on the power play 100%. He's an absolute dog. I'm going to keep riding this Danielson hype train until the wheels fall off. I am so excited about Danielson. Holy crap. What a... And if you... Alan, did you watch... I might only be talking to you right now, but did you watch the 3-on-3 today? I don't remember if you said you did or not. But that was just an absolutely electric time. He made some nasty moves. He was just skating around. There's also, we'll go really granular here, and I already almost only have Alan W in here, I believe, right now. But I love it. Jakub Rozlewski looked really good out there. He was a signing from the Czech league. He was the leading scorer, actually, and he looked really nice. We have a good farm system. I love our farm. It's just about the development and when they're actually NHL ready. LW, how much faith do you have in Leland to build these lineups? I know he didn't have the best ingredients to cook with last season. He made some questionable decisions. I think he's going to have the pieces, especially when the young guys start coming up here and proving that they can play up here. He's going to have the pieces to do whatever he wants. I think that I'd say it's a 60, 70, not 60 is disrespectful. I'll give him 72% faith. He's brought my faith back a little bit on how he can build lineups, but I do believe that he has the pieces now where he can get strategic, he can match up against other teams. Well, I think the only teams that we're going to struggle with again is the Florida Panthers of the world that are just so physically dominant where it's just so tough to compete. I'm glad you saw a couple of highlights. They are go check out Red Wings prospects on Twitter. They are absolute beauties for their breakdowns of prospects. They always come with the best videos. I uber enjoy their breakdowns. So if you want to go see some more, and there was some other players who really stuck out. But I like that Bergen, Casper weren't there, and Mazur shows that they're ready to take that next step and they're ready to take the jump to the roster. I do worry about wasting their years that they're on these draft contracts where we're using them in the minors and they're not necessarily getting any offensive use. So I think Chase Amley brought it up earlier. He said that Kane and Taves won on their run cups on the rookie deal still, and that's something that needs to be considered. Like, are we fully ready to commit to the youth movement? Because we brought in the vets and we have solid support players to not just leave them on an island on their own lines with no vets on their lines. Like, you can insulate young players when you bring them in, I think, now. And it's just about how many you're going to bring in. I hope by the end of the season there's at least 5 mainstays from Grand Rapids that are on this Red Wings roster that are playing meaningful minutes coming down the stretch. And I desperately hope, and I know I've said it 5 times this episode, but Danielson is one of those names, and he is showing you offensive production. Because if he's showing you offensive production this early in his career, like, that is your Wyatt Johnston. And everyone always asks me in the chat, Justin, who's the Wings Wyatt Johnston? And it is Danielson. Danielson is that guy. Danielson is the guy you are looking at to put up points at a young age, to come in here and have impact. I believe Danielson's pretty young still. He's 20, I believe. I really wish we'd bring in one more vet on the D line, but I'm happy going all in with the youth movement. We did do that. It's just they're not up to par with the Petries, the Matas, and now I think that it's hindered Yzerman's view on whether or not he really wants to do that again. Does he want to bring in another vet contract and take the playing time away from the youth movement? I think he's fully committed. By saying that he's done with the trade deadline, he expects Wallander or Johansson to take a jump in here and in this starting lineup. At least, maybe not at opening night, but at least within the first 10 games, I'd expect them to get a crack in the lineup and not just be sitting there in the minors collecting dust, ready to be moved. I'd say I really like where we are. We got a loaded farm. We're building like the Tampa Bay Rays. We have a loaded farm system. We have vets. We're not after this year. We're not sank to any bad contracts, and that's when our window opens, and that's where we have to just refrain and trust Steve Eisman is because we built the foundation. The foundation's great. The bad contracts will be off the books next season. All of them, even Justin Advocator from back in the day, like he's off the books. Like we really will have clean books, and like whatever is the position of need and the player of need that we can go after, we'll have the cap space to do it. We'll have the capital to do it if it's via trade. We will have options to go after, and that's where this year, like the playoffs, I feel is necessary for our young team to just take a step in the right direction. I don't care if people say that that's not important. I think it's important. And then you bring in the rest of your team, and I think at that point we're going to be front runners, especially with the downtick that the East is on. Currently, a lot of the aging stars, they're not going to be able to stay good forever. You're already seeing the floodgates open on Florida's roster. They're trying to trade Ekblad because they don't even think they're going to be able to re-sign him next season. So Boston's aging. They haven't even re-signed Swayman yet, but you could say the same thing about Raymond and Sider. So it's just a really interesting complexion. Yeah, I guess I should have said an upgrade over the Petrie's, Matas. We're setting Edmondson up for failure, having him paired with Petrie. I agree. I do not want to see him paired with Petrie. I'd rather see Edmondson with Johansson and just have an AHL pair, to be honest, and let them see what they can do. And if it's really that bad, then you split them. But I'd love to see them just try that, go with the youth, and hope that the youth works out in the scheme of, yeah, this is looking really nice. I really like what I'm seeing here. And you could just roll with that, and then bring in Wallander with one of the lower end veterans that we have, either Petrie or Mata, later in the season, and then you have a good full youth core that actually is contributing, and that's probably a little step too far because you don't want to be fully betting on rookie parlays if they're not going to be set up right. But if you are going to set it up right, where you have veterans that you can bring in, if they aren't working out, that is also a flexibility thing that we do have. So there's a lot of interesting things. Also, you can't waive any of those guys. They most likely will get picked up by a playoff team who is desperately in need for a D. So there's a lot of interesting complexities of the season going forward. Rando Smalls, is there a veteran defenseman that could play part of the season until the youth is ready? Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to rely on Petrie and Mata. It sucks, and we don't want to do it, but it's going to be them. I think he is done. I mean, I brought up Tyson Barrie. I'd love to bring him in, but I don't think that is necessarily a viable option for you at this point. I think that you're really gonna. Edmondson's ready. You know that, and at that point, you're only gonna be betting on one rookie defenseman truly, which is Johansson. So I like it. You do have Gustafsson in there. Gustafsson, I'd love to see Edmondson and Gustafsson together, but I don't think it. I think Edmondson's going to be second pair. Gustafsson's going to be on the third. Petrie, and then hopefully bring in Johansson, and then Wallander. We then completely phase out Mata and Petrie to work towards our actual window year, which would be 25-26, which is when you also will see MBN up here. Danielson 100% will be up here. There's Casper, no doubt. All these guys will have NHL games under their belts at that point, and we will be a young roster that is ready to compete, and that teams will be afraid to play. We are building a very, very deep roster, and you can see that. And as I look to push the pieces in, if you even try to start predicting the 25-26 roster, you're thinking, all right, well, we have probably 6 forward prospects that are ready to come up on the roster. You probably have ASP who's ready to come up on the roster. You probably have Byam and Wallander 100% at that point. And you're just looking and you're like, all right, holy shit. Like, we have a plethora. And you'll even be able to give the ones that aren't even ready, you'll be able to give them to the 26-27 season. And when those guys are getting years under their belt in the NHL, and this is where it's being built like Tampa, and Stevie Y is building it the right way. And that's where I think people are misconcepting, like, what this rebuild is coming from, where it is going, and when you don't really see the movement in the lower league, in the GR, and that's where you're like, all right, we got a good foundation here. We've been in the playoffs and one of the top AHL teams for the last couple of years with one of the youngest AHL teams in the league as well. And I think that means something in my eyes. LNW, I think we could we could make a run this year. We beat Boston a couple times last season. Always played the Rangers close, but I think the window really starts next season beyond 100%. I mean, I would say we are a playoff, like in the playoff threat. Like when we're in the playoffs, like we're a threat. Like you don't want to be matched up with us in the first round. I'd consider us very similar to. Oh, my boy's gonna hate me when I say this, but I really consider us similar to Vancouver, where Vancouver's really good team. They're deep, but they don't necessarily have the A-level A-level guy, that guy, and they are probably a threat to go pretty deep in the playoffs. But I'd say Vancouver without Demko, because when they had Demko, they were a threat to make the Stanley Cup final. I think they might have beaten the Oilers. So I don't know if they beat Dallas, but I think they would have beat the Oilers with Demko. So I'd say we're Vancouver without Demko, where they're the threat to win a series or two in the playoffs. But once you get down to the deep playoff runs, I think that we're probably a second round, at most third round exit. I don't think we'll make it to the conference finals. I think that's a pipe dream. Randall Smalls, the season seems like Lions last year and ended up being overachievers. Yeah, I mean, I could see that 100%. We have the talent. We have the roster to do so. So I don't want to say that that's off the table. Well, yeah, I could see that 100%. I mean, the Super Bowl hype was real for the Lions. I don't think the Cup hype will ever be hype like on another planet for the Red Wings unless they're really playing well. But I do think they'll be. I mean, you're saying car flag season. I think we could be doing car flag season. And we could be April in the D'ing, having a good, fun playoff team. My dad is currently calling me. Sorry, Dad. I will call you in a second because I'm about to end. So, but yeah, I think this Red Wings team is in a absolutely great position to get something done next season, to keep on this positive linear growth term that people love to coin to, and I hope that we get an exponential jump at some point where we start looking at this roster as a true Stanley Cup contender next season, and that's what we're building for. And Steve Yzerman knows that, and that's why I appreciate Steve Yzerman's outlook on this team so much, is because he just is like, all right, I don't really care what you guys think. I'm building to win a Stanley Cup. Playoffs would be great. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to live and die in the hill of the playoffs. I want to win a Stanley Cup, and I want to do it for this city of Detroit like I did it back in the day. And I think that's such a huge thing for this team and why this team will, at the end of the day, be successful, because they're going to have, at some point, they're going to have an elite roster with an elite farm system that if they do need to make a move and they need to move prospects for a big name, they'll be able to do that. And that's where it's just... It is what it is. All right, well, I guess I got to wrap this up because my dad is calling me again. And so I appreciate all you guys tuning in. I love doing this for you guys. I can't wait to be back at Woodward on Monday. I'll be in the chair for Wake Up and for Big D. So tap in with your boy. Thank you for tuning in. All of you guys have a great July 4th weekend. Enjoy the fireworks. Enjoy the grill. Enjoy the lake. Enjoy the pool. Enjoy just chilling out. You guys are the best. Stay blessed and have the best day. I will catch you on